talk about all the things.
Hi guys.
Today, our topic is kind of interesting one. Kyle likes to call it blind innocence. Do you want to elaborate a little bit more on that, Ben?
I guess kind of the idea that society's breakdown has come more from people just assuming that someone else has got that. And it's not that it's anyone's fault that it got that way. It's just, it's easier to say that, well, as mass majority of people, somebody in that mass is doing something to affect change. And when everyone else is also assuming that there's someone affecting change, there's no one affecting change. And so then without actual change or repairs or upkeep, the system eventually begins to break down in a way that it's irreparable after that and has to be replaced with something else.
Yeah. Okay. I think that that's a really good way to kind of frame it all in just a few short sentences. That's a good way to put it all into perspective for us. So you can kind of see where the conversation is going today. It's not exactly all sunshine and rainbows, but the world isn't sunshine and rainbows. As much as we would love it to be.
As much as we would love it to be. It's white and black, and we live within the gray areas that are mixed between those goods and evils.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a cat trying to get in. Okay. Well, we're going to ignore that, and we're just going to roll into our first topic, which is the problem-solving mindset and versus blame. Because I feel like a lot of times nowadays people get lost in the blame game. It's easy to blame people for things, but like at the end of the day, when you have a leaky sink, you don't blame the plumber because your sink is leaky. You call the plumber to have them fix it.
Exactly. Or I mean, also at this point too, a lot like with light bulbs, when the light bulb goes out, it's not whose fault is it the light bulb goes out. Somebody changes the light bulb and just fixes the problem. And you do see it way more often anymore where it's become, well, he created the problem, no, they created the problem, no, she created the problem, and not enough of, well, this is the problem and how can we solve the problem, just who created the problem, whose fault is the problem.
Yeah.
How can we just fix the problem?
Yeah, you take the blame and the responsibility, the fault, whatever, but there's no actual solution to the problem. It's just, it's a problem.
Mm-hmm.
And how does that help anybody? Who is that helping?
Yes.
Obviously no one.
It's helping a lot of people point fingers.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think as millennials, like, we are used to the finger being pointed at us a lot because we've seen it a lot in the news media throughout our entire adulthood that we've been responsible for killing so many things. We've killed the restaurant industry. We've killed the entertainment industry. We've killed the diamond industry. They keep going into all of these things that we've killed, but really it's just because like we can't afford to participate in that stuff.
Most of the industries became unaffordable for us as soon as we hit the age for like buying our first house, this and that. The markets were crashing, the housing market was imploding.
Yeah.
So who was trying to buy a house at that point, nor teaching us to buy a house at
Right.
that point? Most people were just trying to figure out how to save their own houses.
Yeah, and going out to restaurants and stuff is kind of a luxury at this point. Like it's not something that you can just do because you got paid. Like I can go out to a restaurant with my friends and have a beer or whatever. It's a luxury.
As a family of four, you can go out to McDonald's and buy everything, or you can go to probably a local like steakhouse or something and spend either the same amount of money or just about the same.
Yeah.
Except you get steak.
Yeah.
Who doesn't love steak?
Yeah. I love steak. Steak is so good. It really is.
Upgrade. Don't go to McDonald's. Get you a steak.
Yeah, I mean, if you're gonna pay $bucks for a burger, you might as well pay $12 for a steak at Applebee's, right?
Might as well.
Like,
Two
why
for
not?
20s.
Why not? But also, like, I think that as millennials, like, not only does the blame get placed on us, but we also place the blame in a lot of ways. Like, we blame boomers for our situation that we're in, and I'm not saying it's not the boomers' fault. I'm just saying that, like, who is pointing the finger really helping?
Who's without fault in it? Like,
Yeah,
at every
everyone is to
point,
blame for something.
Everyone takes fault at some point for the way it gets here, which is why, like I said, for like the blind ignorance, it's everybody else assuming that somebody's trying to fix it, or somebody else has a plan and that plan's gonna work without any involvement on my end, and then that plan doesn't work or doesn't happen, and then, well, darn that person, and the fact that their plan didn't work, not like, oh well, darn me for not trying to invest more into that plan, or aiding in that, or trying to form like a Woodstock type of situation where it's people coming together against something or for something as a whole, and not just, well, this is my part of the thing that I'm here for.
Yeah, speaking about Woodstock in the 60s, not Woodstock in 99, because that was a disaster.
Yes, classic Woodstock.
What did they think that they were doing, though? Like, I don't know if you guys have seen it, but I watched this documentary about Woodstock 99. I was unfortunately only like 5 years old, so I could not participate in Woodstock 99, or 6 years old. But what I've seen is that, like, Woodstock in the 60s was a very, like, oh, everybody loves everybody, we're all just gonna kind of come together and listen to music and vibe and, like, just and freely
build a community.
We take care of each other, we feed each other, we house each other, we do what we can to make sure that everyone around us is okay. And Woodstock 99 was filled with so much hatred, a lot of it driven because of the artists that were there. Like, the big difference in music from the 60s to the 90s is, like, that all the music in the 60s is happy and love everybody, and then all the music in the 90s is like, fuck this, fuck that, I'm gonna burn it all down.
Anger, rage.
Yeah. Grunge, man. It's the
really
era
happened.
of grunge.
The rage that happened as things were happening. And that's, again, the same kind of thing there. Rage happened, and rage built its own small community that didn't actually get to see the change that it was looking for.
Yeah.
It was enraged by these things,
Yeah.
but just having rage about something, trying to use rage as just the only medium or the only metaphor,
Yeah.
it doesn't actually usually in long-term ways affect the change you're looking for.
Yeah, and I feel like that's a really good point to make about the rage, because a lot of times we vote with rage, like, we don't notice it, but what's the word that I'm looking for? The campaigns that politicians build are meant to have an emotional response. They're meant to evoke an emotional response from the person who watches them. So you're watching it and you're getting fired up about abortion because that's what they want. They want you to get fired up about abortion, so they made this campaign to get you fired up about abortion.
Yeah.
Like, it's just insane to me how many people don't see that.
And then to start to split the difference on, like, even that as well, it comes down to, do you support, do you not support, where do you support, how far you support, instead of just talking about, is it rights? Is it a rights issue? You have these unalienable rights as a human being to do X, Y, or Z. And if you have them anywhere else in the world, why not have them everywhere else in the world? Because we're one people then.
Come in. He was never gonna stop clawing at the damn door. That's why I said keep talking.
Sorry, maybe you were just cut and clip and whatever.
No.
Let's stop right together.
No, that's why I said keep talking. I rolled my hand, but it's fine. I can cut that out. Okay, what was it you just said?
We're all just one group of people, and too often, like you're saying, the political ads or even ads in general are showing how we're divided, showing our differences, showing what makes our group or this group better than another group, or what makes that group different from us. not the things that we actually need to move forward, which these are the things that bring our groups together. Like, yes, we have our differences, but what do we share as a single thing that can help move us forward as a whole, instead of just moving one group forward and regressing another group?
Yeah. Yeah, and it kind of, that kind of leads us into our next topic. So, like, this is going to sound a little bit like we went off topic for a second, but I promise we're on the same topic, okay? So, when you get a dog, right, you have to do a lot to train that dog to act the way that you want. If you want your dog to sit, you need to train it to sit. If you want it to shake, you need to train it to shake. You know, there's a lot of things that you have to do. If you want your dog to be calm around people, you need to train it to be calm around people. But you could also train your dog to do insane things like bite people if that's what you really want.
Cool tricks.
Right?
Bang, play dead.
Right? But people often think of like dog training and they're like, oh, that's a normal thing that you do, but then they don't think about the fact that human beings are being trained all the time. We've all, if you live in the United States of America, at least, you've been fed the propaganda your entire life of like, oh, we're the greatest country in the world, we're the greatest nation in the world, you have to say the Pledge of Allegiance every single day while you're at school, and the
rankings and statistics don't back up that argument.
Yes.
Or two, you have even like in the family dynamic, religious dynamics, there's always somewhere that from an initial point you're led to believe, okay, this is what's right and this is what's wrong. You're not given, this is the information, do you agree or disagree, and allowed real choice. It's, well, perceived choice. You're given a lot of options, but you're really only allowed to take one option, or else you're out of the group.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's
You're
not.
deviant.
Yeah, and it's not how we build a healthy society of free thinking adults, people who can think for themselves and do think for themselves, not just have the capability of doing it, but they actually do it by themselves. And I feel like we've lost that over time, of the amount of people, like it's almost like, I hate to say it, but it's almost like we live in idiocracy, because I feel like not everyone, but I just feel like so many people around me are just falling so far behind. Like, we're graduating students in high school who can't read their diplomas, which is absurd to me. How can you graduate high school if you can't read a diploma?
It's in some way the way news and media as a whole kind of works anymore. If it's anything that has to do with something real, it's become more about what's the entertainment value and not what's the real story behind what's going on. Or you get your information from somebody who got their information from somebody else who was actually at the event and saw firsthand what happened, instead of just getting firsthand vision.
Yeah.
Like, why don't we have televised versions of what's happening in courtrooms?
Yeah. Well, I mean, we do. They have like the televised what's going on in Congress, right? And a lot of that stuff is public record. It's just a matter of people not knowing where to find the public record. And a lot of people don't know how to get access to that information until something happens and they end up getting arrested and have to interact with the court.
Well, and that's what I'm saying, is that exact argument there is, why is it not just I turn on a local news station, and on this station or a local TV channel, and I can see what's happening live in Congress 24 hours a day. If Congress is open and in session, there's Senator so-and-so coming up to the podium to give his speech about why he believes this and that, instead of only getting to see, well, here's a 30-second clip of what Senator so-and-so said in his 10-minute speech. I still agree with...
They do have, it's called CNN. There's a whole channel on the TV that you can see what's going on in the government at like all times.
If you have cable.
Yeah, I think
like
you have to pay for
people,
DirecTV to do it. I don't think it's even in a regular cable package. I think you have to pay for like a special package.
It's a specialized thing that you have to pay extra for, that you have to think about going for. It's not just, here is what is happening in the country that you live in, available to anyone who can plug a TV into a wall.
Yeah.
Here's the information. It's, you have to go through steps if you want to get firsthand information about what is happening that affects you the most, being what government laws are passing, what senators are and aren't voting for, what their arguments are that they are or aren't voting on for, and not what someone else said their argument was. Because again, if you're only seeing, on average, 30 seconds out of a 10-minute speech, 30 seconds of anything, I can make you either agree or disagree if I give my opinion hard enough on one way or another.
Yeah.
Versus you getting to hear his direct opinion. And
Right.
do you agree
The whole
with
thing.
what his opinion was? Do you agree with the person that you voted into office and what he said and what he is doing? And not what you hear secondhand, thirdhand, whatever from the news, from a podcast, from someone else, even from us. Like, check out the information. Always do your research.
Always do your research, because I mean, if you're not informed, then what are you? In the age of information, it's very clear that we are not well informed as a whole, as the entirety of society. Like, people are not well informed on anything. Like, they get really into their own specific niche topics, but they don't think about, like, oh, I need to learn all the things. I want to learn about gardening, and I want to learn about how to make my energy be more efficient, and I want to learn about how to build my own kiln, and I want to learn about pottery, and I want to learn about leatherworking and woodworking and metalworking and all these things. But like, people usually gravitate to like one or two things. They don't really like do all the things anymore.
You're also not given a lot of time to do all the things anymore either, between families, work, school, extracurricular activities, anything else that's going on, and still trying to have some type of social life, especially when nowadays you're having to work 2 jobs in a lot of cases just to try to get by. And even at that, it's getting by. It's not to get ahead. It's not to slowly be building towards something. It's just not to be falling down the side of a mountain anymore.
And a lot of people nowadays, I feel like, are just barely getting by, which is really unfortunate, because like, it is 2024, and we could be so much better off. Like, if you think about where we were 50 years ago, which would have been the 70s, right? Is 50 years ago still the 70s? Oh my god, it's the 80s. No, it isn't. It's the 70s. Okay. So 50 years ago, we finally got all, like, I feel like that's when we stopped. We had all of these, like, if you look at refrigerators from the 50s and the 60s and the 70s, refrigerators were coming with more and more things in them, like built-in places for your eggs that you could just put your eggs in, and all these extra drawers, like, for specific things that you should have in your pantry. And now every fridge is kind of standard and the same, and you don't have special features. And if you do have special features, the special feature is, oh my gosh, it has an ice maker and a water dispenser. Like,
for me, it's the fact that we are not moving closer to like fridges that you saw in Back to the Future. And stuff like that. You see these flash forwards in so many things to what's going to be in the future. But how far off is that future when that technology isn't that much different than the current technology that we're already using? It's just not being used in that way. Because, I mean, again, like you said, the models in the 50s, the 60s, and up into the 70s, most of those were built for lifetime purpose. You're going to buy one oven, and you're going to use this oven. Maybe even your great-grandkids are going to use this oven.
And I feel like a lot of things nowadays, like, they're not built to be repaired and to be maintained, because in a lot of cases it costs less money to just buy a new whatever than it does to fix whatever's broken on your current whatever. Like, it's really frustrating, because, and a lot of there's some legislation going on about Tesla and cars and the right to repair law, and I think that a lot of companies, like Maytag, I think was one of them, or Whirlpool, one of the appliance companies was starting to re-employ technicians because they want to make sure that their stuff is being repaired and that they are building quality products that will last a long time. And I'm for that. I'm 100% for that. Like, less stuff that ends up in landfills, that's the better, you know?
Well, or even just less of the you take the risk. If you try to figure out what went wrong with your thing, as soon as you undo this one screw, all right, your warranty's now void.
Yeah.
Just because you tried to take a look to see if it was something simple as far as just changing a wire or this or that.
Right. Well,
as soon as you went to take that look, now you voided out any chance that the company's going to say, okay, well, it was our bad. We'll fix that for you now.
yeah, and in a lot of cases, like with appliances, if you call in, say you have a warranty on something and you call in to warranty your stuff, they're like, well, you can't do that without opening up the refrigerator or the microwave or whatever, and if you do that, it voids your warranty. So in order for us to send you a new one, you have to cut the cord on the one you have. Instead of just fixing the one that you have, you now have to make that appliance completely inoperable. And like, that just blows my freaking mind. Like, why? That's so wasteful. And the appliance companies don't have to take any fall for that. Like, it just ends up in the landfill. The person who has the appliance at their house, if they have to pay extra for large trash removal service, now they have to pay extra to remove this large appliance that they don't need anymore, because you're going to send them another one and you just had them ruin this one when it could have been fixed.
That's another thing. We got too used to, or we've become too used to, I should say, the instant gratification. There is nothing that can be on back order, so to speak, where that can be, we ran out, we don't have that in stock right now.
Yeah.
And that can't be an acceptable option. It always has to be in stock. There always has to be one ready. You always have to be able to have this. And having
that's
that
not a
kind
good.
of a standard
That's not a good way to.
It pushes more towards that waste cycle.
Yeah.
Because if it always has to be available, then at a certain point, how many do I order? Do I always keep enough for this? And then at what point is it not going to need to be available?
Right.
When do I change the stock out?
Right.
What if this item is hard to create if it's a food item, but we always have to have it in stock, so now we have to, like, for McDonald's and stuff like that, like, because you're always expected to have a fresh and ready burger. Burgers get thrown away every 20 minutes or something like that.
Yeah.
How many burgers are being thrown away because you can't say, hey, well, it's going to be 2 minutes while we fry up a burger real quick.
Yeah, the waste in restaurants is unreal. I mean, I always, whenever I was the GM of the pizza joint, I always tried to make sure that we were wasting as little as possible, but like, it's gonna happen. People don't come in. People will order food and then not come in and get it. And it's really unfortunate that it happens that way, but like, it do. And usually at that point, like, I'm feeding your pizza to my crew because I'm not throwing it away, because that's wasteful to me, and I'm not, why would I waste perfectly good food? I can't sell it to somebody because it's been sitting there for longer than an hour, and if they do come in, I will make them a fresh pie, but I'm not going to, I can't sell them this one.
Well, also, even for, like, spacing, for quality, for product, the fact that, because, again, for instant gratification, you can't go to the store and buy a new stove and oven, and then say, okay, we'll have it delivered to your house in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
You have to be able to leave with that stove and oven in the back of your car right now.
In a lot of cases, yes. Yes. Because I think whenever I had like a washer and dryer, and they were like, well, do you want delivery service? And I said, yeah. And they said, okay, it'll be like a week, because they had to schedule the delivery and they had other deliveries or whatever.
Delivery comes extra, delivery comes from a separate person.
Yes.
It's not just, I can go to the local place, pick this out, and then tell them, okay, I want one of these. They contact the manufacturer. Or they contact the manufacturer, and the manufacturer says, okay, I'll deliver it to that person in that amount of time.
Right.
Or we'll bring out a mass delivery for everybody that you have for the last month, last so many weeks, for the last whatever invoicing period, and deliver all of these ones to these areas.
Yeah. Yeah, wouldn't that be crazy if things only got delivered once a month by the company who manufacture them, instead of being delivered by retailers? That would be insane.
Being delivered to someone, to be delivered to someone, to be delivered then to you.
Right. Like, I would like to receive it directly from the manufacturer, please and thank you.
Having manufacturer pricing on everything at that point then.
Yeah.
Because then you're not paying store markups for different things.
Yeah. Yeah, because they've got to make their cut, right? I mean, everything in the United States is a business, and everybody's got to get their cut somehow. And with them, it's okay. Like, we bought the product, now we need to sell the product to you, so we're gonna upcharge it a little bit, and you pay for the convenience of us selling this product to you. Of us keeping it on our shelves so that we can sell it to you. That's what you're paying for, is the convenience.
Yes.
Of having that product readily available to you. Because otherwise, where would we be? People would just order stuff offline.
Order stuff offline, or
Which already happens.
If you're already ordering offline too, then at what point do you need the super mega centers anymore? And then if we didn't have the super mega centers, like, yeah, it's cool to be able to get different things from other states, other cities, other countries, but also if we didn't have those readily available options through a superstore, then we might find local opportunities, local options that are available to us, and then cut down on a lot of the larger problems that people are worried about.
Yeah, you may find your local furniture store has a lot better options than your local big box furniture store.
Yes.
What's that? Lazy Boy.
Yeah.
Like, if you go to the Lazy Boy national chain furniture store, you might find that that's different than your local furniture store, where your furniture is made locally and made out of materials that are found locally.
Supporting your own infrastructure, supporting your area, supporting your state, instead of supporting larger corporations that are really only worried about supporting themselves.
Yeah. Well, and I think, kind of going back to what we were talking about with, like, conditioning and all of that, like, we've all kind of been conditioned to want to support these larger companies because big business is such a big part of our infrastructure here in the United States. And without those big businesses getting the support that they need from all of us, because there's like 8 billion people in the world and 3 billion in the United States.
Like 300 million or something like
that.
that.
300 million. I'll put the correct thing, like, on the screen or whatever, but man, it's really frustrating to me to see people just fall in line with what they're being told and not want to pull back the curtain and want to see what's on the other side, want to see the wizard who's controlling everything from behind. And I want to see the wizard. I'm here to see the wizard. I'm going all the way.
I mean, I think it's because, like, if you're going to use that kind of a metaphor, like, very down the Wonder Brick Road, no one travels down the Wonder Brick Road. It's just, it's that way to get there, but no one actually travels down that far. Anyone who does get there never gets past the front gates.
Yeah.
And if you, for whatever reason, can stumble your way past the front gates, then your options become somewhat limited, or I feel like you get constrained by, well, this is just the way that things are, so this is the way you have to do it if you want to get inside. Yeah, and it's unfortunate because it seems like everything, if you want to see what's behind the curtain, you have to have access to a certain level of money. I mean, that's really what it is. Money talks at the end of the day. If you have access to money, you've got access to everything and everyone, and there's nothing that anybody can do or say about it. Like, things have shown, like, if you follow the brands, like, most companies are slowly but surely all becoming just one big company that so many people have bought into, and so many people are then making decisions for the trickle-down effect of companies, and then all the people that work for these companies. It's becoming minor decisions as far as at a board meeting go now affect tens of millions of people and not just a handful of people. Yeah. And those tens of millions that are being affected have no idea that they're even being affected because they're all so wrapped up in their own
stuff because they have to have their own problems. If they don't have their own problems, then how they're not surviving. Everybody's got to have their problems, right? Like you've got, oh, your struggle to pay rent, your struggle to pay your utilities, your struggle to keep your kids in school and off the streets and not pregnant, because Lord knows we don't want our teenagers getting pregnant.
Work stresses.
For sure, yeah. Work stresses, relationship stresses.
Everyone has their problems, and that's another thing too, is for even like these larger problems as a whole, is you can't expect everybody to also focus on the larger problems when you also have your own problems as well. And it's become a point where there's so many problems around every turn.
Yeah.
Where is my leftover time to worry about the grand problems?
Yeah. But it all kind of, I feel like it all started for us in childhood, because like we went to school and we're taught all these things in school, but the way that school is structured in the United States, it's very, I don't want to say like militarized, but that's kind of what it is. Like it's not militarized in the sense that like there's guns and stuff there, but it is militarized in the sense that it's very structured. And like you have a bell that releases you to go from one class to the other class. You have, at my high school, we had 2 minutes to get from one class to the other class. We had 22 minutes to get through and eat our lunch. Like that to me is like, that's militarized. You have so many kids that you're trying to get them all through at the same time. So how much attention, how much learning are these kids actually getting in that time?
Well, and what are you learning throughout that process? You're learning to repeat tasks that you were given. Here's the current task. Can you repeat the task the way I want you to repeat the task? And if you do well enough, and if enough other people in that school do well enough at repeating the task, then you get the next thing.
Yeah.
It's not
how much did
you actually learn, how much did you actually grow, what are we trying to teach you? It's just, could you repeat the task well enough to then now go on and compete more tasks?
Yeah, which really only teaches you how to be a good employee. Like the school system in the United States does not breed, like we were talking about before, free-thinking adults, people who can and do think freely for themselves and want to. They desire to. But the school system doesn't breed that. It breeds like-minded employees, people that you can control, people that you can keep in line, because that's the only way that they're going to maintain this current system that they've built of, we need employees, we need people, we need employees, we need people, we need employees, you know?
And I've talked to a lot of people who always say, like, man, I wish they would have taught that in school. I wish they would have taught me how to balance a checkbook. I wish they would have taught me about my finances. I wish they would have taught me these different things in school.
When there's a reason they don't.
In some cases, they do teach those things as obscure electives that if you choose to learn about this, all right, you can, but it's not a requirement. It's not a requirement that you know how to go into adult life, knowing how to pay your bills, how to do these things, but it's a requirement that you know how to go into life to make sure that you can go somewhere, to get employed somewhere, to continue to work your way up a ladder that may or may not ever be there for you to actually climb in the first place.
Yeah, and like, I think it's something really culturally to be said about the United States, that when you go out to social events and you talk to people, generally one of the first things that people ask you is, what do you do for work?
Yeah.
Like that's a really common question, and honestly, like, I don't like that question. I've never liked that question, and I just feel like, first of all, how I'm making my money is none of your business. Second of all, why do you care? Like, are you asking me just so you can look down on me for what I do for work? Like,
yeah, it's
because that's how it feels a lot of the time.
It's initially, I feel like it's a classing kind of question. It's to say, are you and I in the same kind of class? Because if you work as a plumber and I work as a lawyer, I obviously went to law school, you didn't go to school.
Right.
So it sets us in a different class. But at the same time, if in that scenario you are that lawyer, you still need that plumber when your toilet breaks.
Yeah.
So it doesn't necessarily put him in a lower class. Yeah, he doesn't do as glorified as a thing, but you still need him. Society still needs him just as much as society needs you.
Yeah. And I mean, as much as society needs you, you need to also be there for yourself. Like, you have to do things for society and for other people, but you also have to do things for yourself. Like, for example, you want to go on a dope ass vacation? Go. What is stopping you? Life is short. There is no reason to wait for your friend or your buddy or your wife or whatever to want to go. Just go. If you can afford it and you want to go, just go. Go. Please have fun.
Definitely have fun. Always have fun.
Yeah, I mean, we just need to be better. I think wholly as a society, we need to be better about setting our own expectations for how we think, what we want out of life.
Yeah.
I guess is the best way that I can say that.
Being able to have your own individual expectations. Too often it's like arranged marriages in the early days or whatever in the 1300s and 300 BC. Now everyone's lives have come down to that arranged marriage. Well, I have to go to this college and I have to do this and I have to do this and I have to do that, and that's how I find happiness. Whether it's a plan that you're creating or it's a plan that someone else has created, or it's just the plan that you feel pressured into because your grandfather and your great-grandfather and everyone else going back 100 years have all been in this position, so you have to be in this position too.
Yeah.
And not, well, from a younger age, what is it that you're passionate about? And just like that too with the schooling, we're slowly cutting out creativity and just pushing for STEM schools.
Mm-hmm.
And while you do
Which, I mean, there
those,
isn't anything wrong with having schools that are dedicated to, like, science and math and engineering and stuff. Like, there's nothing wrong with that. But you also do need to have schools that are dedicated to art and
well,
creativity.
You need the whole package. It's one thing that I felt unique about when I was able to go to school that still was a thing is
yeah,
we
it
had
wasn't a
art
specialized
class and
thing.
science class.
Yeah.
Because you need the creativity that comes from art class as well as the knowledge from science class if you want to be the next kind of Thomas Edison or something like that and create these things. You need the creativity to use something that's already been around in an outside the box way, and we're just teaching people how to fill out the spreadsheets, how to run the programs, and not how to use what you use to run the program in a new inventive kind of way to create new change, to create new products.
Yeah, because they don't want that. They don't want people to make new stuff. They want people to just keep doing what they want them to do. You know, the elusive they.
The elusive. Who are they?
But, you know, that kind of brings us into our next point here. You're not special.
Mm-hmm.
You're not. Everyone nowadays, I feel like we have so many different, you know, people fighting to be heard. And there is nothing wrong with being heard, okay? Nothing at all. I hear you, I see you, but everyone is saying that they want to be treated equal when that's not what they want. They don't want to be treated equal, they want to be treated special. And I have to break this to you, and if you are listening to this podcast, then that means that you have the capability of understanding me, which means that you are a human being. And you are just like all of us. We are all human beings. That's all we are. And the only way that we're going to get through this is if we all get over trying to be treated special and realize that we're all equal. We're all just one. We are Homo sapiens.
Or realize the ability that we have the ability to be that. We all have the ability to do good things. We all have the ability to do bad things. We all have the ability to go to work, to go to school, to not go to work, to not go to school, to become a robber, to become a murderer, to become this, to become the most pious person in the world, to give away all of our money if we became rich. We all have that ability to do that. And it's not recognizing that it's, well, everybody has that potential. Well, no, my group doesn't have any of that potential. We don't have any kind of potential for greed, for bias, for hate, for vengeance, for love, for whatever. My group is the only one that has that. Their group doesn't. And in a lot of cases, cases, when specifying the group like that, you very rarely do you know all the groups. You just know what someone else told you about the group, and now say, okay, well, that's how that group is.
Right.
Or a one-off interaction, the first impression. You had a bad first impression, and now that's just that entire group as a whole. There's no reason to try to give a second impression, to learn more, to grow more into it.
Yeah, because why would you want to? You were so turned off by the first one that, like, why would you want anything more to do with them?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And second chances, life is involved in always needing a second chance. There's always a reason to try something maybe once again, just to see, like, maybe the first experience was a bad experience, so don't do everything in the same kind of way, but still learning, knowing what that experience was, knowing more about what another group is going through, because again, like we said, everyone goes through something. We're not soul and individuals that only I go through stuff. No, we're all people. We all go through stuff.
Yeah.
And a lot of us go through the same stuff, and sometimes even at the same times, but because we're not open as much to the community of, well, everyone's going through this, no, only I can be going through this, so now we're segmenting ourselves off from people that could help us.
Yeah, well, and I think a lot of times too, we don't talk about stuff that's like difficult because we all want to have that perfect social media life. We don't want to be perceived as weak or unsure of ourselves. We want to be perceived as confident and happy in our lives and happy with what we have, but in reality, a lot of us aren't happy with what we have, and that's portrayed in the way that you actually, off of social media, the way that you behave, what you do, how you talk to yourself, how you talk to other people. All of that is a reflection on how you feel about yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we've talked to my niece about that a couple of times.
We've let the cell phone start to tell us who we are versus telling a cell phone what it is.
Yes.
Like, it's just a device in my pocket that I can use to get to infinite amounts of information.
Yeah.
It shouldn't define who I am and be allowed to say, like, this is who you are as a person.
Yeah. Yeah, and I feel like a lot of times it's because of all of the social media and stuff. Like, it's slowly shaped an entire generation of kids in ways that we could not have fathomed. Like, I think growing up and being a kid in the 90s was a really unique experience that we did not understand at the time how unique of an experience it was, and that we would be the last generation of kids to experience childhood in that manner, especially because, like, when we were kids coming up, you know, the internet was a thing, but it wasn't like, not everybody had the internet in their house. Like, we had just gotten to the point where we got phones, more than one phone in the house. Mm-hmm. So you mean you want to put an internet in the house and more than one TV? Like, we just got to the point of having more than one TV in a house, and all of a sudden the internet is becoming a thing, and it's a very scary thing. In the 90s, you know, they were always like, don't talk to strangers on the internet, but like now we call up a stranger to come pick us up and then we get in their car.
We changed the dynamics there in some ways for the better and in some ways for the worse. Like, yes, it is awesome that now everyone all around the globe communicates with each other, but you also lost the portion where people who live right next door to each other communicate with each other. And it's the person who lives next door to me who's going to see when my kid sneaks out at night.
Yes, or when your house catches on fire.
Or when my house catches on fire, when my car gets stolen. Mm-hmm. When something is happening in the neighborhood, it's the neighborhood watch. The neighborhood watch no longer became a thing, it became cyber watch.
Yeah, or in some cases,
doing online, not just what are they doing in the real world. Yeah, and
in a lot of cases, like, the neighborhood watch really is just your neighborhood HOA. Like, you only have a neighborhood watch if you're in an HOA. Yeah. If you're one of the, I don't want to call them lucky, but I mean, semi-lucky people who are in an HOA. You're lucky in the sense that you have that protection of the neighborhood watch, or the additional layer of protection with the neighborhood watch, but you're not lucky in the sense that you have to pay extra money just to have your house be in this one little cul-de-sac. Like, that's so fucking stupid.
Yeah. Because you wanted your shutters a different color.
Yeah, and then you gotta have somebody tell you what color you can paint your house. Like, absolutely fucking not. That is not gonna happen. Not in this day or any day and age.
Some things are about freedom.
Yeah.
Color of your house should be freedom.
Yes, the color of your house should be up to you. If you want to paint
Unless
your
it's
house a hot pink, you go right ahead. I don't care what color it is. I don't care what color it is. That's your house. If you want your house to look like a rainbow exploded on it, go right ahead. Have fun. Enjoy your life. Life's short. Just do what you want. It's way too short to not do what you want.
Fair.
And with that, like, a lot of people are really quick to judge, like, talented people. They see somebody, like, do stuff online all the time. Like, I see all these videos of people doing, like, all these really cool things. And I'm like, man, I wish I could do stuff like that. But you don't think about when you're, man, I wish I could do stuff like that. When you think that, you don't think about the fact that that person who's doing that video has put in hundreds, if not thousands of hours to be able to reach that experience level to make the video for you, to show you what they can create.
A lot of time it's unappreciated, like, effort over time. It becomes, well, they were so talented, they were so this.
Yeah.
But not they started at 5 years old doing this activity, this sport, this whatever that led to them eventually in high school becoming a world champion.
Mm-hmm.
It's always, they were so talented, they were so lucky, they put in thousands of hours of hard work that is being disregarded for the sake of saying that they're the one of individual that could do this.
Yeah, and I experienced that in my life once, because my junior and senior year, I was first chair because I was in band, so I was the first chair for the saxophone, and there were other people who, because up to that point I had played the clarinet as my primary instrument, and the saxophone I only played for jazz band and for pep band. So up to that point, there was a lot of people who were like, kind of like, what the heck, like, she's second or third chair, because I think I was third chair my freshman year, and then second chair my sophomore year in clarinet. And there was a lot of people who were really upset that I was first chair in saxophone, because they're like, oh, she just switched instruments so she could be first chair. Like, no. I switched instruments because I liked this instrument better. Mm-hmm. And I've spent the last 6 years of my life practicing this instrument for 3 hours a day, every single day after school. I did my homework, and then I'd practice my instrument every single day. And then I had a lot of people who would tell me, like, oh, you play so beautifully, and yeah, I did, but, like, that wasn't...
They didn't see the hours of hard work that went into that.
Yeah, they didn't...
Those hours.
They appreciated what I gave them, but, like, they couldn't appreciate it from the same standpoint that I appreciate it, because I've spent 600 plus hours playing this saxophone.
And I think it's because of that mentality, that mindset, like I'm saying, it's the unappreciated effort is so often it's become that if someone can do something, well, they must have just been talented.
Or they got lucky.
They got lucky, they got talent, they have this, never, wow, that person put in a lot of hard work to have that ability to be able to play like that, to be able to do that. It wasn't just they're more talented than everyone else on the planet, and that's why they can do it. Like, no,
talent
they
is
started
just hard
working
work.
hard,
Yeah.
And that's how they got to the point where now they can do it.
Yeah. Talent is just hard work. At the end of the day, that's all it is. Like, if you see somebody and you're amazed by their talent, ask them how hard they worked to get there.
Yeah.
Because that's exactly what it is. It's just hard fucking work.
There's far and few the actual savants in the world who just pick up a guitar and suddenly can shred Van Halen.
Yeah, and they just know how to use it and do it and whatever. Like, that's very rare. Very, very rare. Coming from someone who can play 7 instruments, it's extremely rare to just pick up an instrument and be like, oh yeah, I know what I'm doing. Like, I was taught how to play the clarinet. I taught myself everything else, but like it was not easy. It's not something that like I picked up overnight.
You can understand music theory, and you can understand maybe a string instrument, maybe this instrument, but
Yeah.
every instrument plays slightly different or achieves that musical theory in a different kind of way.
Yeah. Well, and all woodwinds are the same. So like, if you know how to play the clarinet, you know how to play the saxophone and the flute and like the bassoon. They're all the same. But the brass instruments are a lot different, and that was like a challenge for me because you have to hold your mouth completely differently, and like the way that you blow is different. Like it's the whole thing is different. And percussion, like that's a whole nother beast. Oh my God! Don't even get me started on percussion.
Percussion, string sections.
Yeah, and strings are hard. I always wanted to play the violin. That was the one instrument that I never got my hands on, but always wanted.
I think so. Maybe
to play.
I always wanted to play the violin.
Yeah.
Just never have.
Yeah, I think if I could ever get my hands on a violin, like that, I would just love it. I think I would really enjoy it. The calluses that I would build up on my fingers, I don't care though. It's for the love of music. I don't care. I love
pain.
music.
No, music is pain.
Music is pain. So that kind of brings us into our other topic, because music is something that really brings us all together. Kind of like we were talking about before with like the Woodstock '99 stuff and the Woodstock in the '60s. Music is something that brings us all together as a collective, and I don't think that people realize just how powerful that tool is. Like if you watch the documentary about the Woodstock '99, you will realize how powerful that tool is, because it's insane how the energy shifts just because of the music that's available to listen to. And it's like, I know that they've done like experiments on like rats and stuff where they have them listen to different music and it makes them act different ways, and like that's real stuff that happens in real life. People just don't realize it. Like if you're listening, just not any hate on heavy metal, okay? But if you're listening to heavy metal all the time, like you might be feeling like you're angry all the time, and that anger is coming from somewhere, and it's a lot of it is stemming from the music that you're listening to.
Or it makes you perceive everything around you from an angry perspective right away. There is no, maybe there's a different alternative, maybe this or that. No, you're already, it's the Hulk. I'm always angry. And
Yeah.
always angry. There's no chance for anything not to make you angry.
Yeah, there's no chance to be zen.
even in that kind of an idea, like music brings us all together. The other thing I think is interesting that is something that I don't feel a lot of people think of is, while we all have our individual groups, I'm from this country, I'm from this culture, I believe in this religion, we also, as we like are talking, more and more people are going online. You're also now part of one of the single largest cultures ever, being the online culture.
Yeah.
And like, it's a very small window that the online world has existed, but it has more people that can all interact with each other at any time seamlessly than any culture ever before in history.
we live in a really unique era of human history where we are all interconnected in a sense that we've never been before. Like in the past, we would have heard about the protests that are happening in Paris right now. We would have heard about that stuff months after the fact. But now, or even a year after the fact, but now, like, we get live updates. Oh my God, I didn't even tell you.
Live updates, I was gonna say.
I didn't even tell you
right away.
what happened with that. So they delayed the swim because the scene is too dirty. So they delayed the swim until the 15th. So people are still doing it. They're pooping in the scene, and I think it's hilarious. If you haven't seen this, oh my God, I love the French so much.
French protest harder than anyone.
More, yes, they know how to protest. They really do. Like, oh my God, if you're French and you're seeing this, I love you. I love you. So much.
You guys really do protest harder than any other country.
I love it, and I really hope that it continues, because like the people of France are mad, and they have every right to be mad. President Macron has continued to screw them over at every chance he gets, and it's like, at what point do other people look at the French and be like, maybe they're not doing it so bad?
Well, I feel like that's become another thing, that's the other portion that's divisive. They're becoming like dividing to our like overall humanity is government and business. Government and business became one and the same, and then it just became, how can government make more money, or how can businesses make more money that can help the government out in some kind of way, and not what can the government do for the people inside of that area. Just how can we use them to create more, to consume more, to use more,
Yeah.
and keep everything flowing before they ask questions about, like, well, what are you doing? What's going on? And now it's becoming, as we're saying, more and more that connectivity. Like, you're seeing where we're upset with this government here, we're upset with this government here, we're upset with this government here, in countries around the world, including our own, people are becoming more and more upset with what government is there, and it becomes a question of, well, what government do we all want to see? Because at a certain point, there's things that we can all agree on as human beings that we want. Doesn't matter race, religion, this or that. Like, we all want the right and the chance to be happy, to be fed, to go to sleep at night, to have somewhere warm to sleep when it's cold, and
To have a
somewhere
roof
cool to
over
go
our
when it's
heads.
hot. And to say that anyone else doesn't deserve that or should get less of that so I can have more of it, is there's only so much space before we run out of space.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that a lot of people don't realize that, like, there's not a single place on Earth that people haven't been to. Like, in the entirety of the world, there is not a single piece of land that is untouched by mankind.
Most things don't look the way they do in documentaries anymore. You see documentaries or even like old footage from like the crocodile hunter and the places that the crocodile hunter in. Now if you turn around from where his view is in the camera, there's probably a Wendy's on a corner somewhere or a Subway.
Yeah.
Definitely Dollar General. Dollar Generals are everywhere. I don't know how they're everywhere, but they're everywhere.
I saw this video where this guy, there was a Dollar General bag laying on the ground in the front of his yard, and he went out and picked it up, and he was like, "Oh, I got it. It's a good thing too. These pop up. These make Dollar Generals pop up." And then like he stands up, and there's a Dollar General right there, and he's like, "What the fuck?"
I don't disagree. I could definitely see it. The bags are seeds.
Yeah,
They have
the bags
to
are
be.
the seed for the Dollar General store. If you see Dollar General bags flying through the wind like Katy Berry's, do you ever feel like a plastic bag? Yes, if you feel like a plastic bag flying through the wind and it's a Dollar General bag, there's a Dollar General store coming to your area soon, promise.
On its way now.
They're in a lot of trouble right now because they've been like stealing a lot of money from people. Yeah, the oh my god, Jonathan.
At this point, what company isn't stealing a lot of money from people or isn't doing something wrong? Because that's the other thing where I'm saying with like the blame game versus the problem portion versus just fixing stuff.
I guess let's talk
Who's
about
not in
that for a
trouble
second.
for it?
So like with the Dollar General situation, the problem is that like the prices on the shelves are not matching the prices that are being rung up at the register. And I think a lot of this is coming from short staffing because they don't have enough people in the store to make sure that all of that shit is correct and code all of that stuff correctly so that when you do swipe it, scan it, whatever, it comes up right and you don't have that issue.
Yeah, that sale is still a valid sale, that it wasn't one that ended on the 21st and here it is the 30th and that sign just never got taken down.
Yeah, and if they would have just staffed themselves correctly to begin with, then they wouldn't even be having that problem. Like, they wouldn't have to deal with this lawsuit if they would have just staffed themselves correctly to begin with.
Well, again, it also comes back to there should be a certain standard that everything goes to, and the standards are becoming broken in every kind of way. There used to be self-checkouts, and self-checkout was on the rise, but now because of theft, self-checkout is booming out again. And you used to be able to staff a store with 2 people, but now you have to have 5 people because you have to have back to having register people again. And at what point can we just get to where everything has like robots or something else that I can just scan a thing and the robot can sense if I did or didn't scan the thing and then just set the alarms off as I'm walking. There isn't a way to trick the robot into thinking that I didn't do it.
I am so for robots taking over all of the menial bullshit jobs that people are so tired of doing. When we go to the Sam's Club, they have a robot that restocks the shelves and checks, it doesn't restock the shelves, it checks the inventory of all the shelves, and it lets people know when the shelves need to be restocked. So then they stock up their little forklift thing, and then they go out and they restock stuff. But yeah, I'm totally for that. Why are we not using more robots? If a robot can make my hamburger, why should a robot not be the one making my hamburger? Why does a person have to be the one to make my hamburger for me?
Or why?
I don't need servants. I'm not a queen.
Or for me, why do we need like camera technology to get better and better for Face ID, for this or that, instead of just get better to see if somebody slipped a candy bar in their pocket or whatever? That way, hey, an alarm immediately goes off because AI can see, oh, there's a picture of a hand going into a pocket with a thing in it.
Yeah.
It didn't come out of that pocket.
Yeah. Well, and I think there was one company, I can't remember who it was, maybe it was Whole Foods, or maybe it was a grocery store that Amazon was developing or something, but they had like carts and baskets and stuff that, like, when you put something in the cart or the basket, it like scanned a barcode, so then it like recognized that something was put into the basket, and then when you take it out of the basket, it unscans the barcode, so like it knows, and then you just pay for your basket. Like the whole thing is like on the shopping cart, and you just pay for your whole shopping cart, and you just take it out, put it in your car, and then you take it back to the store, and you're fine. Like, why don't we have more technology like that? Why
isn't the barcode also the security sensor, so that
Yeah.
the barcode has to be scanned to deactivate the security sensor, and not this extra little thing that you gotta fidget with to get off your clothing?
Yes, or the little plastic thing that they put on like electronics and stuff. Like, why is it not built into the barcode that, hey, like, why doesn't the security sensor realize, hey, that barcode has not been scanned, and then just go off? Rather than saying like, oh, that security tag didn't get taken off. And that's the other thing, like, I have left the store before with stuff that I paid for that still has security tags on it because they didn't remove it and their security system didn't go off.
Yeah.
So like, does your security system actually work or not?
The security system goes off and someone just waves you along and tells you to keep walking away.
Yeah, they don't even do anything about it. They're like, oh yeah, it's probably just your keys, it's probably your hat, it's probably what?
Yeah. More often than not, nothing happens, to the point where like then the theft spike rises, and then it penalizes systems that were working in a better fashion. If you can have 30 lines that are always open, that are always running, then now you don't have to have a 30-foot line of people waiting for the only cashier available.
Right.
Because, I mean, I like to think that I'm smart enough to be my own cashier and ring up my own different things. It's not that difficult, and I don't see why we still have to have people to do these things. Like, instead of having it where people can do this, now they can move on to doing something else.
Yeah.
Become a store manager, become a this, become a that. Like, growth in industries and less of the, well, we need these intro basic menial tasks. Like, do we really need basic menial tasks anymore? Do we want people that are just constantly doing menial tasks instead of having people that are actually doing something that they're passionate about, that they'll put effort into, that they'll do their best in the final byproduct?
Something they actually care
about. And not just, oh, I put my headphones in and I'm doing it, and I don't really care what the product looks like after that.
Right, like, why do we need personal shoppers to pick out orders? When a robot could do that, a robot could pick out orders.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess a robot may not be able to tell, like, what the best fruit and vegetables would be to pick out, but, like, for the most part, a robot could pick out an order pretty easily.
Yeah. You could have it just have human intervention for that one item or that one thing, but it cuts down on the amount of discrepancies or whatever, because the robot knows, no, we have 327 of that item available, even though it's not showing on the shelf right now, or I can't see it in a quick glance.
Right.
I know it's here.
Right. And the robot would be programmed so it knows exactly where the item is. If it's not on the shelf, it knows where to go to get it.
Yeah.
So, like, why allow for human error when you could eliminate it? Like, why wouldn't you want to eliminate it when you could?
Well, I continue to build towards progress,
Yeah.
towards Star Trek, towards space travel, towards the fact that, I mean, like we said, nowhere on Earth is untouched by humanity at this point. So
Mhm.
let's start finding out about other spaces beyond just humanity,
Yeah.
and or what benefits humanity, not just what benefits the French, the Russians, the Asians.
Yeah, not just what benefits
individual
your
countries,
particular
individual
demographic.
groups, your demographic of that group, and well, you know what, that group, because they're not like my demographic. Like,
Yeah, because regardless of like your race or your nationality or your gendered identity, your sexual preferences, your political ideologies, like whatever it is, like your belief systems, your religious beliefs and all that, whatever makes you who you are, we're all still just human beings.
you still have problems, I still have problems. Our problems may not be the same. We may not have had the same causes to those problems, but we both have problems.
Yeah.
And more often than not, we probably have problems that are similar, that if we just solve as a whole, then a lot less people can have problems.
Yeah, and I think part of the big plan is that, like, if they, the elusive they again, if they, you know, keep us all distracted worrying about our own problems, about, like, you know, I can't make my rent this month, though I have to pick between whether or not I can pay rent and buy groceries. You know, if they keep us focused on our own individual problems and our own individual belief systems, because a lot of times, like we were talking about before, like political ads and ads in general are made to evoke some kind of emotional response from you. So if especially around election time, and especially in a presidential election year, it's going to happen a lot. There's going to be a ton of things that are meant to make you vote with your heart and not with your brain. And that's not a good way to vote. It's not how we can.
It's also not good that we're left with only minimal options when
our options suck.
You're left with one of two options every single year. It's either you're on the white side or you're on the black side, and there is no in between sides of it. When, like we said in the beginning, like, life is lived in the gray area.
Yeah.
There should be more than just one option or two options for all these different things. And even then, when it comes down to local elections, in some cases, there's just one option. Nobody else ran for this position. Nobody else tried to do this position. So it's just the same person over and over and over.
Yeah, because that's all they have. Because no one else even thought to run at all. Why would they try? You know?
Yeah.
What's the point? But the only thing, like, they want to keep it that way. They want to keep us all focused on our own pithy bullshit, so that at the end of the day, they can just do whatever it is they want to do, and they don't have to ask questions of us. They don't have to ask for our opinion or get our opinion or anything, because we already unknowingly bypassed it. They had that meeting without us. We weren't invited.
Well, and to the pay scales that also come with it. When you look at the history of how our government was formed, yeah, you were guaranteed $100,000 salary if you made it into Congress.
Yeah.
So after 30 years in Congress, you should theoretically have $3 million. So how do certain people that have been in politics for their entire career have multiple $1-million mansions on private islands and in other countries and wherever else, when there's no way that the money that we elected them to get just for being in their position, and in some cases just holding that position once and receiving that pay for the rest of their lives, and yet they made the rules. They can invest that money in companies that then they're making the rules for. So if I own a bunch of oil stocks, gold stocks, if I own weapons companies, why wouldn't I vote in a way that makes my weapon company or this or that more money than voting for what may or may not benefit the people that I'm elected to vote for?
Absolutely. Absolutely, and keeping us all divided like this, keeping us all focused on these individual things that makes it so that we as a collective are unable to come together to enact any kind of effective change.
It makes it easy to just, again, point the blame. Say
Yeah.
this guy caused it, and now we all just get riled up and mad that this guy caused it, and not, well, how is the next guy gonna fix it?
Yeah.
How are we going to fix it? How are we together going to come together and say, okay, this is a problem. The planet can't sustain humanity. The economic crisis, the housing crisis, the food crisis, the financial crisis. When all of these crises happen, how are we going to fix it, and not just saying, okay, well, he caused the crisis.
Yeah.
Well, now we know who caused it, but knowing who caused it and taking weeks, months, or years of time to focus on who caused it didn't solve the issue anywhere, didn't band-aid even the issue.
Right, and I mean,
it just pushes the issue down the road to
yes,
somebody else.
and
Get mad now and get mad at that person, so that way we can just move this issue down the road and you can forget that I was around at any point.
yeah, and eventually, we can keep kicking the can down the road as much as we want, but eventually someone's gonna have to pick up the fucking can and deal with it and throw it away. And I feel like we do that with a lot of things. We kick the can down the road with so many things throughout our society, at least here in the United States, and it's gotten to a point where it's no longer a can, it's an entire fucking landfill.
Yeah.
And how are we supposed to deal with an entire landfill all at once?
You swept under the rug, swept under the rug, swept under the rug, and now there's a mound, and there's no way to just walk over it now. There's no way not to trip over the problems.
Yeah.
And are we going to find real solutions to it? And real solutions are scary, but real solutions also come from everybody getting to put their perspective in, and not just a select few. There is not really the single leader. I mean, look at any kind of thing from Star Wars to the Hunger Games, whatever it is. The individual leader usually never accomplishes as much as the group, or in a lot of cases, that individual leader that everyone's backing turns out to be just as bad as whatever was there in the first place.
Yeah.
So needing to actually have groups that can interact for each different side, so that way something happens that affects everybody in a beneficial way and doesn't leave someone stunted and still outside, because anyone who's left outside and rejected is eventually going to turn into the villain, because why am I ostracized? Why am I out here?
Yeah. Well, and there are certain ways that you can kind of as yourself, I don't necessarily want to say remove yourself from society, but start to live in the Star Trek future that we want. You have to stop buying into the things that you have to have the Pepsi, you have to have the name brand whatever, grow your own food, stop buying grocery store shit, make your own soap, make your own whatever, figure out how to make your own stuff so that you don't have to buy stuff anymore, because that capitalism is what runs the world right now. And if you take the I'm going to keep giving you money portion of capitalism out of capitalism, then the whole thing collapses.
It does all collapse, but I mean, at that too, if everything just collapses all at once, then you end up in the, well, what's going to rebuild it? Versus replacing it along the way. Again, going back, instead of buying from mega corporations, or when you walk down the soda aisle and the fact that 90% of the soda aisle is all one company.
Yeah.
Finding that company that's not the same company, supporting real competition, supporting real change, or even if you yourself are passionate about making soda, make your own soda and compete and be one of those sodas on the aisle that people can look for and be like, oh, I've seen this person, I watched them growing this company, I want to take part in this soda, and not one that's been around for 150 years. If something's been around for 150 years, probably is something that's pretty good. They've probably known what they're doing, but it also doesn't mean that something else better couldn't have come along after 150 years. I mean, we assume the automobile would be better than horses and buggies,
Yeah.
and that the next greatest thing will be what it is, that a modern cell phone is better than a corded phone on a wall.
Yeah.
So why not keep that same progress moving in all aspects and not just in minor areas here and there?
Yeah. Well, and I think about all the skills and stuff that we've lost over the last 100 years since the last Great Depression. Like, during the last Great Depression, a lot of people had farms. A lot of people were farmers. They had the ability to grow their own food. They had not just the ability, but the knowledge as well in growing their own food. And they knew what to grow and when to grow it and where to grow it and all of that. And now I feel like we've lost a lot of that, especially with having so many monoculture lawns. There's just so many people that, like, they know how to take care of grass. That's it. They don't know how to take care of a lawn. They know how to take care of grass. And, or, you know, a garden. They don't know how to take care of a garden. They know how to take care of grass. And it's not, the grass is killing the soil so that nothing else even wants to grow there. So, like, what are you supposed to do? You have to add chemicals to make stuff grow there, because that's the only other option that you have, because you added chemicals to kill all the stuff that was growing there so you can grow your grass.
And we have the dual, like you said there, after the Depression areas where things changed and it became more of, you need to work for this or that company, and not sons and daughters passing on and passing on and passing on in a tradition as well. Like, we were Masons, we're renowned for being the best Masons in the world.
Yeah.
Now you work for that company that 20 years ago maybe was a family company, 30 years ago, 100 years ago, maybe that family name did exist and they were the best Masons.
Yeah.
And now people just work at that masonry shop instead of starting their own and going out and proving that, like, hey, our technique is better, my skills are more proficient, and reaping that, because the risk to reward is becoming less, I feel like.
Yeah.
If you can go out and you can get a job that you can get fired from tomorrow, then why not, if you're skilled in something, go out and just create your own position for that instead of doing it for someone else.
Yeah. Yeah, and
take the risks,
and
take the
I
worries,
think that's,
take the fears that come along with that.
yeah, and I think that's why we have such a large portion of people, especially in our generation, really pushing to be entrepreneurs right now and wanting to work for themselves and not wanting to run the rat race anymore, because we've been there, we've seen it, we know what it does to people, and we know that it's not healthy and it's not a good way for us to live our lives. It's not a happy work-life balance, because how do you have a happy work-life balance when you spend 40 hours a week working for a company, an additional, let's call it 12 hours a week commuting to and from work, and let's add another 4 hours for keeping yourself clean and all of that, and washing your clothes and all that stuff so that you can go to work. Like, we were talking about this with friends the other day,
making food.
Yeah, if you work at a restaurant, a lot of times they only give you one shirt to start out with. And if you want to come to work in a clean shirt every single day, and you live in an apartment where you don't have a washer and dryer inside your apartment, you are then having to go to the laundromat or to the laundry center in your apartment every single day, which adds an additional hour and a half onto your probably 4-hour shift just so you can wash your shirt. And, like, if you're getting paid minimum wage,
and if you go to a coin laundry, if you're just using a local laundromat that costs $1 something more,
yeah, it's not cheap
per load, like, you're spending almost $10 a week just to make sure you have a clean shirt.
Yeah, you're spending an entire, we'll say 4 hours of your life,
easily,
as well as an entire hour of your labor just to keep your shirt clean so that you can go to work every day. And that's on top of,
Or
on top of making food to make sure that you are, you know, eating right and having money to afford food and being able to have a social life and going out with people and doing things, and that stuff is important. That's a really integral part of who people are, and it shapes you, because if you don't have your community, you don't have anything.
Or if you do want to get more shirts, then you have to spend $18 a shirt to have more than one shirt.
Yeah, you have to spend more than an hour of your labor to buy a shirt that you have to wear, that you then, when you leave the company, they want it back.
And will only wear there. It's not like you wanted to go out and buy your company shirt so you can just wear it everywhere you go to. Like, hey guys, we're going to the mall, we're going out to the movies, I'm wearing my work shirt. That's what I want.
Right? And I mean, like, I have a couple work shirts from when I worked for the pizza place, and I do wear them. Like, now that I don't work there anymore, I do wear them because I refuse to give them back. I wasn't doing that. It doesn't look like it's recording. Oh, there it goes. So one of the things that we always talk about is the Star Trek future.
Mm-hmm.
We very much want a Star Trek future, a place when a time and a place in a society where people accept each other for who they are. Just let people enjoy things. Stop getting to stick up your butt about stuff. I don't care if it doesn't sound appealing to you. If it doesn't sound appealing to you, then it's not for you, my friend. Like, that is the best advice that I can give you. If it don't sound appealing to you, then it is not for you. Then you need to do something else with your life. Do something that does sound appealing to you, and stop letting everybody else bother you. Why are you letting other people enjoying shit bother you? What is up with that? Like, why not just let people enjoy things and enjoy things yourself? Like, why are you getting so grumpy?
Why does everybody gotta be angry?
Yeah. Because at the end of the day, like, we want a Star Trek future. But we know that there is no savior. There is no chosen one. There is no Katniss Everdeen, no Harry Potter, no Tris Pryor. There's no savior coming to save us all. The only way that we are going to get through this together is by working together collectively. Because at the end of the day, like, we're all human beings, and I've said this a lot of times, but we were talking about it last night when we were preparing for our podcast. We all may have differing opinions on things, but we're all on the same ship. We're all on the same ship. We're riding through the same storm. And it's a matter of whether or not we'll get through it. And we need every single person on the ship to do their part, because if they don't do their part, then we're not going to get through it.
And we're all creating waves, and that's the thing. A lot of the waves that are going on are being created are self-imposed waves. It's one group trying to make a big enough splash to make another group make a bigger splash, to make another group make a bigger splash. And it's all these competing groups splashing around and causing all this chaos instead of just interacting together.
Yeah.
Like a storm and all the rainfall and everything else. If all the storms come together as one storm, it all passes relatively quickly. But as a new storm here and a new storm here and a new storm here and a new storm there, it's constantly storming all the time.
Yeah. Well, and I wish that the United Nations was more like the, what's it called in Star Trek, the Galactic Federation.
Yeah, more of
like,
a singular overall.
Yeah, like I wish that they actually did something. They don't do anything. All they really do is peacekeep for nations that have had war going on in them. They're just peacekeepers. That's it. But what they really should be, if the United Nations, like, if I am electing the President of the United States, the President of the United States is my UN representative. They go to the United Nations, and then the United Nations, a collective government, decides what is best for the 8 billion people who live on this planet, the only planet that we have. We don't have anywhere else to live, y'all. This is it. Earth is it for us. Like, this is the one planet that we have to live, and we're torching it. And we don't even care. We're not even doing anything about it. Why would we want to do anything about it? We're comfy, living our lives. We got our iPhones. What do we need to do anything about?
There's Netflix and chill. We can just Netflix
Yeah,
and
we
chill.
can Netflix and chill. We can Netflix and chill.
We don't need to worry about problems. The world will keep spinning, keep on spinning. And I guess that's the other thing too, is that at a certain point we can just kind of kick the buck to a certain point, because the world will keep spinning. Whether we're still in it or not is the questionable point.
Yeah.
And if most of us still want to be here for that inevitability, then we need to do something to ensure that.
Yeah.
And not just continuing to say, well, the world's going to keep on spinning.
Yeah.
But humanity may not keep spinning unless humanity starts to care more about overall humanity as a species, Homo sapiens as one group. Because that's the other thing, is we don't treat ourselves like, if we talk about pets, like, oh, I have dogs, oh, I have cats, oh, I have this. You're not saying, oh, I only have golden retrievers or whatever. Like, you saying you have dogs, you have a Chihuahua, golden retriever, this or that. We don't categorize people that same way.
Yeah.
It has to be, oh, well, they're Greek, they're German, they're Irish, we're American, we're this, I'm that. It's these divisive things.
Like, why does it
their
matter?
pet
We're all
breeds.
humans.
Like, no, we're all just humans.
Yeah.
Just like it's all just dogs, we're all just humans.
Yeah.
Like, yes, we do have these cultures and these things that we should be proud of where we come from, but we should also be more proud, I feel like, of where we're going.
Yeah.
What's going to happen
think
next, and do we care more about what happens next, or just reminiscing on what happened before?
Yeah, and I think that that's a lot of the problem, is that, like, people are so blindsided by what has happened in the past that they don't know how to even conceptualize what is going to happen in the future, what they want to happen in the future, how we're going to get there. Like, there's a lot of steps that needs to be taken, right, to be able to get to that kind of level, but the first step is us as a society just coming together and saying, like, okay, this is what we want, and actually following through on, like, this is what we want, and we're not going to stop at anything until we get what we want, which is equal rights for everyone.
And the future...
Equal, not special.
The future quickly becomes the past, whether you participate in it or not.
Yeah.
Today becomes yesterday.
Yeah, time's gonna pass whether you want it to or not.
Everything is going to continue to happen, and you can participate in being a portion of what that tomorrow is going to look like, or you can just skip it, but you don't really get to complain about what yesterday was if you're not willing to participate in what tomorrow could be.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think on that very dark note, I think that's going to be it for us today. I think that's kind of the wrap of what we wanted to talk about. This has just been kind of weighing on us the last few days, and this is something that we've talked about a lot over the last few weeks, because we're really concerned, and it's just been weighing on our minds and our hearts a lot. So we wanted to do it as a podcast, as we think that a lot of you also feel the same way.
Yeah. I feel like a lot of you could have the similar feelings, or even too, like I said, it's not about the blame, it's about the perspective. So what are your perspectives? Where do you feel that things are still heading in the right ways, and where do you feel like things are not heading in the right ways? And how can we change the things that aren't heading in the right way, and not just who's to blame for that thing?
Yeah. Yeah, because we can point the finger all we want, but at the end of the day, like, who's that really helping? It's not helping anybody.
And I know some of this seems very vague and cryptic in a lot of ways. Believe me, we plan to have more episodes to dive deeper into specifics of the companies, the corporations, the ways that things could change, or at least our opinions on those. Because, again, that's all it is these are our opinions, these are our feelings. Not saying that you have to agree, but
we're just trying
by
to
sharing
be, like,
it creates the dialogue.
Yeah, and we're just trying to be semi-careful about rocking the boat, in a sense, because, like, while we're unsubscribing from the keeping up with the Joneses way of life, we know that a lot of you, unfortunately, are still in the throes of it and don't know how to get out of it, and we don't want to create a lot of attention that is not good. Like, we don't want people thinking that we're trying to do something we're not trying to do. We're just trying to build a happy community of people who love each other and treat each other with respect, okay? That's what we're trying to do.
Growth and love, y'all. Growth and love.
That's all we need. So speaking of growth and love, just one final thing before we sign off here. If you want, you can become a member of our Patreon for as little as $1. Members of our Patreon will have access to exclusive merch that you can only get if you are a member of our Patreon. And you will also have access to all kinds of stuff, like you'll get episodes of the podcast early, you'll get to vote on podcast episode ideas, contribute ideas for episodes, as well as helping us out with our build as well. Like if we want to chat with, hey, what color should we make this thing? Like you guys can help us out with our RV renovation, which is going pretty well. We're almost done with demo. Yeah. It will be. So once we get the propane tank off and a couple other things, then we'll be done with demo, and another video will be out for that. But yeah, I think that's pretty much it for us today. So we're gonna sign off, and the next podcast that we have, we're gonna get some music so that like we can come in kind of
Fun.
kind of dance or something.
Dance.
Yeah. So
a body.
yeah, like I'm gonna put some music in the beginning here so that when I edit it, but like we're gonna have some music that we know what the music is, so I know what I'm dancing to. So with that, we are done for today. Make sure you like, comment, share, and follow for more. Okay, thanks. Love you, bye.